This time we'll go to item number 11, which is our superintendent's report. I'll turn it over to Dr. Hefner.
Thank you, Mr. Gant, members of the board. We are so happy to have another school year underway here in our district. And we just want to share a few slides with you this evening as we launch a new year here in the district. So first of all, let's look at what's new for 2017-18, just to keep you up to snuff on what's going on here. First of all, we have 8 new principals, starting at the upper left. Dr. Gerald Gary is now our principal at Dutch Fork High School, moving up from the Dutch Fork Middle School as principal and replacing Dr. Greg Owens, who retired after a long distinguished career in public education. And Dr. Gary, I see, is with us this evening, so congratulations to Dr. Gary. Moving across is Dr. Al Gates, who moved up to the director's position of the Center for Advanced Technical Studies after having served there as the assistant director since it opened, replacing Dr. Bob Couch, who has moved to Anderson County. The next photo is of Mr. Jason Pollock, who I also see in our audience this evening. And Mr. Pollock has served many, many years as an assistant principal at Dutch Fork High School, is now serving as the principal at H.E. Corley Elementary, replacing Dr. Judy Franchini, who retired after many years of service with us. And the top right is Cassie Paschal, who is now our principal of Irmo Middle School, after having served as principal of Oak Point Elementary School for 6 years. Ms. Paschal was also a student several years ago, tell her I said that, just a few years ago at Irmo Middle, and was also a teacher there. The bottom, far left, is Courtney Long, who is now the principal of Lee Park Elementary School, who had served there previously as assistant principal, and she is replacing Kelly Brown, who has moved to the district office. Next, you see Gina Mays, who is now our principal at Seven Oaks Elementary. Ms. Mays has been in the district for a number of years, having served most recently as assistant principal at Valentine Elementary, and she is replacing Harriet Wilson, who retired after a long, distinguished career here in District 5. The next photo is of Vernon Sava, who is our new principal at Dutch Fork Middle School, replacing Dr. Gary. Mr. Sava most recently served as an assistant principal at Irmo Middle School. And on the bottom right is Christy Krause-Smith, who is the new principal at Oak Point Elementary School, after having served there as an assistant principal for 6 years, and is replacing Ms. Paschal, who moved to Irmo Middle. So we welcome all of these people. All of them are internal hires. While they're not new to the district, they're new to their roles, and we wish them all the success. Now, looking at some other things that are happening in the district, we have new Lego We-Do kits at Valentine Elementary School to implement coding in the classroom. And at Harbison West, you'll see a new news set, which was donated by WLTX. So we're grateful for that. One item of huge interest for all of us is the fact that we have new Chromebooks for all of our high school students. And I would point out that we now have more than 98% of our students using a Chromebook in our schools daily. This is a huge step forward for us because basically all students are using the same device, which gives our teachers a great deal of confidence in the assignments they make. So we're happy to see more of them using all the same devices. And this is made possible. We certainly thank the board for your decision to drop the insurance fee and replace it with a technology fee, which we believe is responsible for the increased participation of our students with their devices. All right, another topic we wish to discuss this evening is a couple of things happening at the Center for Advanced Technical Studies. On the left, you see the new fire engine that we received courtesy of the City of Columbia, a fire engine that they have retired. And it will have many stops here in the district. It will go to the Automotive Collision Technology and Design program at Irmo High, where it will be repainted as required by the people who gave us the gift. And I think an out-of-service fire engine cannot be red, as I understand it. And from there, it will go to the Automotive Services and Maintenance Technology program at the center, where they will certainly seek to study all of the mechanical aspects of the engines which power the fire engine. From there, of course, it will serve their fire and rescue program there, where our students will have hands-on experiences with a real fire engine. And I think it's certainly interesting to note that students in our Alternative Energies program will actually develop the diesel fuel which is used to power the fire engine. So it's a gift that keeps on giving, serving literally hundreds of students in our district and will throughout the years ahead. And on the right, you see that our barn is now in use. We got its official, our certificate of occupancy in late April, and we now are able to take full advantage of this program. I saw Mr. Sachs was here earlier, who works in that program, and he can tell you in about 3 words why it is that we all need to take a strong interest in what happens with agricultural science, because it touches all of our lives. Also, you will note and hear more about just shortly, we have major paint upgrades at Chapin Elementary, Chapin Intermediate, and Crossroads Intermediate School, much to the delight of all the folks who work on those campuses. There was a major refresh at Dutch Fork Elementary School. The place looks great, one of our most historic schools, and many upgrades in the theater there. Also updates at Irmo Elementary in terms of their interior doors, following a nice creative theme there. And something that's not always visible to the eye, but very important, is new HVAC equipment at Lake Murray Elementary. And we have new security fence at Nursery Road Elementary, something that the faculty at River Springs Elementary School is exceedingly happy about, is their renovated workroom. You know about the fact that we have a new addition going up at Chapin Middle School, and everyone is excited about that project, and it's coming along very, very well. You'll notice that there we have new signage, which was added over the summer at Chapin High School. At Irmo High School, that was actually added a little bit earlier, but fairly new. And Spring Hill High School got some new signage just a few days ago. I am very happy to report that we have 3 new buses. Now, we'd like to have about 30 new buses, but we'll take 3, and these are buses that are replacing existing buses in our fleet. So we're delighted about that. Some people have asked about the famous corner wall at Irmo High School at the corner of Emory and St. Andrews Road. There was a collision there this summer which knocked out a portion of that beautiful fence, but on the lower part of the photo you'll see it has been restored. And so we're very thankful that we were able to put that back into place. Something that maybe is not visible to the eye, but is very important nonetheless. We got a major grant at the Academy for Success, a 5-year grant called Successful Transitions, which will fund a staff person to help with our students who are moving from the Academy for Success to a different campus, back to one of our home campuses, and this will aid in their in the process of them being successful where they're going back. Something that I am particularly excited about is this in student nutrition combined with the center is the crop stop. From the outside, it looks like an old discarded portable, although it's been fixed up. On the inside, you will see that it looks great. And this is a part, I think, of the good agricultural processing grant, and we are, I'm told, the only school district in the United States to have this program, which we're doing in conjunction with students at the center. They will grow their crops, will process their crops, and then the crops will go to the crop stop, where we will have what's called a blast freeze, and so they'll be frozen over the summer and then served to our students throughout the year ahead. Again, the only place in the country that's doing this. Another thing that I think is most notable and something that the board should be highly commended for is our expanded safety and security program, now led by Michael Poole, Curtis Cannon, and Meg Cutno, working not only in terms of helping us respond to things that we have to respond to, that things that we may not ever want to have occur, but helping us make sure that we are certainly prepared for any event that might come our way. And this is a huge addition to our capacity to keep our students safe and secure, as well as our staff and families here in our community. Now, a couple of things that are significant in terms of staying the same. I'll just point out a few. We're still #1 by niche.com in terms of the best overall district in South Carolina, #1 district with the best teachers, #2 for best places to teach in South Carolina, and #3 for the safest school district in South Carolina. Obviously, we want to be #1 in all of those, so we'll continue to work toward that end. Also, we point out that our ACT scores, which have been released, ranked among the highest in the state, according to the data released by the South Carolina Department of Education. And our test scores are above the national average for districts where all students are tested on the ACT. Another data point that's the same, we have this year once again tied our record for the number of National Merit Scholarship semifinalists with 19, and all 4 of our high schools are represented. I think it's tomorrow that our SAT scores are officially released. I can't tell you anything about it till tomorrow, but I will just tell you it's all good news. So you will be happy when you read those reports. In terms of looking at our enrollment, I would show you the comparison of 10-day enrollments from 2013 through 2017. And you see that in terms of our state-funded students, that's 16,725, and for all students, our enrollment on the 10th day, and all students includes preschool through any overage students we might have, but it's primarily preschool through 12th grade, is 17,228 students. Looking at the trend information for the 10-day enrollment over the past 12 years or so, you will see that we do have a slight decline this year from last year, and our overall enrollment there as of the 10th day is the 16,725 in the again in the state-funded programs, and 17,228 when you consider all programs. We will have a detailed enrollment report at our next meeting. So in conclusion, I'd just like to say we're off to a good year. It's been a very unusual year for us in terms of the disruption caused by the total solar eclipse on August 21st, and then the interruption of school due to Hurricane Irma. But everywhere I go, and in my initial visits to the schools in the first 3 days this year, as always, I found everybody on task, our students focused, our teachers laser focused on instruction, and all in all, it's been a very good beginning. So I share that with you as we come together for the first time since school has started. Now I want to go to the second part of the superintendent's report and give you a report on a couple of studies. We've actually been engaged in about 4 over the course of the summer, and I will share just some brief findings with you on the first 2 this evening. And these are preliminary findings of an efficiency study conducted on all 80 school districts here in South Carolina. Initially, the state looked at the 30 school districts that were involved in the Abbeville lawsuit, and then later they expanded it to include the balance of districts, the other 50. I think that report has now been made public, but I would share 3 findings with you that they gave to me upon that the person who conducted our part of the study upon their exit from the district. One is that our employees on average earn more than employees in districts like ours and in all districts. I think the reason for that is clear, that we are blessed to have many long-term employees with advanced degrees, which drives the salary up. One data point about that we need to be worried about is the fact that we have many people reaching retirement age, and long-term that could be an issue for us, us seeking more and more people to fill vacancies. Secondly, we have more employees per student than districts like ours and all districts. I think the explanation for that is that our board policy on student-teacher ratio requires a lower class size, and we're very happy about that. I think that's one of the reasons we're the #1 district in South Carolina according to niche.com, and one of the reasons we have the best teachers in the state is that we do maintain favorable ratios. I think we also have some specialty positions that other districts may not have, which I think shows up here, where we have more employees per student than other districts. And thirdly, we have fewer district office staff members and administrators in relation to students and employees in districts like ours and in all districts. We know that the priority here in this district has always been more focused on the classroom than on administration. So I think that's a point of pride. The other study that I'd like to share with you is also one funded by the state. Our state is the only state in the nation which is requiring the administration of the state-required ACT test this year to be online. I think that's a pretty bold step for our state to take, and we know that districts that went to the online testing in the spring of 2017 experienced huge dips in their test scores, so there is an implementation curve there that we will be watching very carefully. But we also are concerned about our ability to carry this out. The state's concerned about every district's being able to carry this out. So our overall rating out of a possible 5 points was a 3.4, and it does indicate that our district is able to meet the basic needs for online testing, but has several areas of improvement that we need to undertake to minimize risks that could significantly impact us. So their identification of our strengths were these. Professional development is great. Student readiness, our students are ready for this. And thirdly, our strategic planning process to make this happen has been commendable. The areas of concern are our infrastructure. We know this is a problem, and we've been working on this now for a good while. We know we need additional hardware and updated hardware, and our disaster recovery plan. So we're working on those. But again, the state has assessed that we are able to carry out the online testing, and we know that we will be working on those things that will hopefully make it better for us to do this successfully and without interruption. Now, there are 2 other studies that we've been engaged in over the course of the summer months. One is one that we initiated that's called a Future Ready study, where we engaged the services of an outside group to look at our technology program as we look to the future in terms of what it is that we need to do to be cutting edge in terms of what we're doing instructionally with technology. We will have a full report on that at your next meeting. And the fourth study that we've been engaged in over the summer is we asked for outside an analysis of our Title IX, situation here in the district in terms of our facilities, in terms of our programs. They are to have their final conclusions to me by early October, and so we hope to have that report to you at our second meeting in October. And our folks have been very busy in terms of continuing to look for all those things that will help us assess where we are and what we need to do to get better. At this time, we'll go to our Office of Finance and Operations with Mr. Richardson for some reports from his area. Mr. Richardson.
Thank you, Dr. Hefter. Mr. Dan Neal will give you an update on the construction project at Chapin Middle School.
Mr. Chairman, board members, Dr. Hefter. It's my pleasure tonight to bring you up to speed on where we are with the addition to Chapin Middle School. As you know, it's a CM at risk project with a guaranteed maximum price, and I'll report on that tonight. I think the board showed great wisdom in using the CM at risk for this particular procurement. It's qualification and price-based, both. So the firms have to qualify, so you're going to get qualified, competent contractors. It's also price-based. They actually bid through bids on the upfront work and on the percentage of the guaranteed maximum price for their fee. You also have a motivated partnership that results. They want to get the work done and get it done properly, as does the district. So it's a very close relationship between the administration and the contractor. Financial control is superb. We only pay, the district only pays the contractor for the amount they're invoiced, plus their fee. So we have the option at any time of going in and looking at the records of the contractor to make sure that the pay applications are both appropriate and correct. We also have schedule control. We work hard together as a team to make sure that we minimize the time it takes and the disruption on the existing school at Chapin Middle School. We've already cut about a month out of the schedule and moved the completion date from June to the end of June through back to May of next year. Cost savings are not just do we save costs because it's the contractor is working on a flat percentage, but there's no construction management firm involved because it is CM at risk. On a project this size, that'll save you 6 to 7% off the top. As opposed to design build, which is where the contractor hires as part of his team the architect and engineer firm. In CM at risk, the architect works for the district, so we do not lose control of the design professional in this process. We also use working with contract construction, we also use a planned bid application, which is superb. I've got a notebook and I can follow in real time all requests for information, all drawing changes, all documentation on the project. And all the members of the team have access to that. And the bottom line is that all the parties have a common goal. We need to get this project done, get it done properly, and get it done properly, and make sure that it's delivered on time. This is a fairly complex spreadsheet, but the bottom line here is this shows the guaranteed maximum price calculations, and that price is $7.511 million. That's just for the construction. We also show the additional allowances that the district has for furniture, audio visuals, and testing. This is the real cost of the facility. You'll also see in the the top right-hand side which subcontractors that actually bid on the project and were the low bids and accepted by the contractor. My last slide, the purpose of this slide really is to show you that between the DD estimate, which was the completion of design, the contractor working with a contractor have cut the cost about $160,000, and the allowances are still the same. So the bottom line is the process is thorough, it's concise, it always represents the best interest of the district. With that, I'll take any questions, Mr. Gannon, if anyone has any.
Anyone have a question? Ms. Hammond?
If you don't mind, explain to the public, and I know you've explained it to us, but how the contingency clause works and how we are protected as a district.
Thank you, Ms. Hammond. There is a contingency in that price, in that total price, of 5%, which amounts to about $350,000. And that money is basically used only to fund things that were not identified in the original design. Or the district may well decide that they want something else, or want something additional. Bottom line with that is, it doesn't get spent if we don't need it, okay? It's not a slush fund of any kind at all. And the best thing that could possibly happen in the end is that we don't execute that money, and that gets returned to the rich.
That would be really good.
We're working on it. Aren't we, John?
Any other questions? Mr. Cates?
Yes, sir.
Just for clarification, that is the GMP, not an estimate of the GMP, correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct. That's my mistake. It should be, it is not the GMP estimate, it is a GMP. And it'll be reflected in addendum to the contract.
Ms. Hammond has one more.
Just one more, just to make our constituents feel good about this new method that we believe is going to save us money and be a win-win. Explain how we have oversight, really good oversight on the actual project as it's being done.
Well, there's several things that give us oversight. One is the involvement of the administrator that I have and the administration as well. The other is we have an independent testing firm that through various parts of the project are required to go in and do tests, and they certify them, and their engineering license is a stake here. And that's an independent inspector that we hire. Okay? So the combination of those things gives us very good oversight of the project. And I think that the most important oversight I believe we have is our relationship with contract construction. It's a very close relationship, it's very personal, and these guys are real pros. They're a pleasure to work with.
Any other questions? You know, we've talked about contract construction all night. You might as well introduce Mr. John Farley, who's appropriately wearing Chapin colors tonight, because I know you live here, so we do appreciate it.
Mr. Farley's here to make sure I don't mess up.
Thank you, Mr. Neal. All right, and now we'll have well, it's back to Mr. Richards.
Thank you once again, Dr. Hefner. Scott Carl is going to come up and give you a brief, excuse me, update of our capital program, some of the projects that we did over the summer.
It's a red line, right? Okay. Good evening. Mr. Gant, members of the board, Dr. Hefner, thank you again for the opportunity to update you on the status of some of the capital projects we've been working on since the last time we met. I've been here about 18 years now, and I've never had a group like our board who supports existing facilities and avoiding deferred maintenance like I've experienced in District 5. So that's a testament to the board to make sure that our taxpayers know that our existing facilities are being maintained while we're adding new work like we're doing at Chapin Middle School. As you know, we're normally working on about 2 budgets at one time. We're not always able to get all the projects done, typically in 1 year, and they cascade into the next year. But I'm happy to say we've really got a lot of work done this summer, and we are just about complete with both the budgets, both the 16-17 and 17-18 budgets. The yellow on the slide in the 16-17 column shows completion of the project. All these projects you see here were completed actually last summer. And then the projects that you see for Chapin High School, Dutch Fork High School, and Irmo High School, we completed this summer. We're finishing a few punch list items on all those, but they are substantially complete. And I'm gonna try to move through this because it's got a lot of slides. So if you have questions, please stop me, but I know your time is valuable and I don't want to belabor a lot of the information you may be aware of. Chapin High School, the Black Box Theater. That has a number of unique things that we were able to do in there. Besides renovate the space, it hadn't been touched in about 30 years. And among other things, we added fixed seating. We upgraded the theater lighting to new LED lighting, which is better lighting, but it's also more efficient, and also the sound system for that space.
Mr. Camp, may I ask a question on that when we're on
Yes, ma'am,
it?
please.
Yeah. What ended up being our final cost for renovating the box?
We're still in the process of working
So it
closing that
okay.
out, closing the cost portion out, but we are definitely within budget.
Yeah, because I remember we had some question about that.
Yes, ma'am.
And when will it be ready for the students to use?
We are waiting on Office of School Facilities for final inspection. They have indicated there's 2 calendars that we have to get on for these projects: the Office of School Facilities and also the State Fire Marshal. And they've indicated the State Fire Marshal should be ready to inspect the first week of October.
So right now, if I'm a drama student at Chapin, where am I having my class?
They're doing it in another part of the building. I'm not sure where that is.
But they were able to still sign up for drama and have it, just waiting on getting into the facility this year?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
Thank you.
That's a shot from the floor area. You can see on the upper left what it looked like prior to and what it looks like now at the bottom.
And what's the capacity now?
There should be 114 seats in there. We also renovated the back area where they build sets, cleaned up that area, also renovated the teacher's office, which is on the left side of your screen there. Also upgraded the dressing rooms that you can't see in that picture and created a little bit more storage space for them in those back areas. Moving on to Dutch Fork High School, we did a theater renovation in that auditorium. It mostly consisted of replacing some of the rigging that had some problems with it, as well as we replaced all the curtains, updated all the lighting, stage lighting with the new LED lighting like we did at the Black Box. We also replaced the vast majority of the house lighting in there as well. Unfortunately, with a project like this, there's just not a lot to see in a pretty picture, but I did take a wide angle view there that shows you how the lighting's increased, and it does show you a portion of the stage. Irmo High School, you may remember last year we had the Share Fair event at Irmo High School. We were able to do a lot of work in places all over the school, particularly the West Wing. When you walk down the halls and in the public areas, we were able to dress those areas up. One area that we still, our sore thumb, that we still wanted to take care of were the restrooms in the West Wing, and we were able to upgrade 7 of the restrooms in the West Wing and dressed up all those areas. And it really, it takes somebody like me to get excited about restrooms, but if you knew what they were like before and you saw them now, the kids and the staff are very excited about what they got now.
No, I want to personally thank you too on that, because that's probably what I hear most of from Irmo constituents.
The only one who's probably not excited about that project was the contractor, because dealing in those existing spaces was tough, but AOS Specialty Contractors did a good job for us. Yes, ma'am.
So you said you did 7, how many more are remaining to?
No, we've taken care of all the restrooms.
Oh, all of them.
We have some other restrooms in the facility, like where the cosmetology lab is, but those were upgraded when that space was created.
And then how about restrooms in the main building?
None of the restrooms in the main building have been touched, but they're probably getting to the point we need to look at those for a little bit.
Yes, hopefully so.
Yes, ma'am. A little before and after. It really is a beautiful space if you go in there now, or space is. Okay, moving on to this year's budget. We have completed substantially anyway, every one of the projects except the roofing project at this facility where we are now, but we should have that one completed by the middle of October. All the hot work has been done, so there's no concern about smells and things like that, but they're finishing some of the flashing and portions of the final membrane for the roof have yet to go on, and I'll show you those in pictures in just a second. Lake Maria Elementary School, we completed the second phase of HVAC renovation at that school this summer, and we have one more phase to complete next summer. We completed the core areas in the center of the building and one more academic wing. Next summer, we'll be completing the resource portion of the building as well as the gym, cafeteria, and mini theater. The reason I show you this picture, and Dr. Hefner actually showed you this picture as well, the old system had these big bulky units in the classrooms that were noisy, they took up space, and they're very difficult to control humidity with that type system. The new system is a central HVAC system. It has the dedicated outside air that you see in this picture. That big old unit that the two fellows on the right side of your screen are working on is a dedicated outside air unit. It's much better for temperature control, and then we control, for humidity control, and then we can control the temperatures with your smaller units. It's a much better system for that type building. Okay, getting back to Chapin Intermediate School, it's amazing what you can do with drones these days. And our roofing consultants tend to do this. On the left side of the screen, you'll see the roof as it was existing. On the right side, you'll see all the areas that are dark there. That's where the gravel was removed. And in the far right, you'll see the really dark area. That's where the initial membrane for that roof, that portion of the roof was replaced. And moving on to this screen, you'll see in the upper right where much more of that area is black. That's the initial membrane being installed. And then what I'd like to point out in the picture on the right, that very, very white portion of the roof, which is the front office of the media center, that's what all those really dark areas will look like when we're completed. And with the new codes, we're required to upgrade the efficiency of the roofs and bring it to what's called R21, which is a energy efficiency value. But we also add that white surface now that gives us much more reflectivity. It's going to save us with energy costs. And again, this project is still in progress, should be completed by the middle of October. Dutch Fork High School. Hard to believe, when I first got here, they were just completing the additions at Dutch Fork High School for the academic wing, as well as the back part of the cafeteria, the senior nook, we call it, as well as the fine arts areas. And we're actually, it's time now to replace those, and we did that this summer. So all the major areas of Dutch Fork High School now have received an HVAC renovation. And what's particularly noticeable is when you walk these corridors now, that new LED lighting really impresses you with how bright it is. Again, those classrooms at Dutch Fork High School at one time had the individual unit in the classroom. Very hard to control humidity, very noisy, disruptive for the teachers and the students. And now we've got central systems that are much more efficient, are able to control that humidity, and it's quiet in these classrooms. Irmo High School, we replaced the roof on the adult ed area of the facility. And again, on the left-hand side, you'll see the roof as it was existing and now how it is on the right. You'll also notice that we removed a lot of the obsolete equipment that we didn't need anymore. So less penetrations on the roof, less chances for leaks long term. We also coated the existing concrete covered walkways at the school. A lot of people think concrete is moisture proof. It's not. It's actually porous, so you've got to keep a good membrane on it if you're going to protect it and make it last. We relocated, I should say, 3 portable classrooms this summer from River Springs to Lake Marie Elementary School. You'll see what the space looked like before on the top left and where they are now on the lower right. A couple of interesting projects that we were able to complete with our school identified needs portions of the budget. Our special needs programs at Dutch Fork High School and Spring Hill High School, we were able to create a learning lab in both those schools. And you'll see this was just a storage area on the top left. We ripped all that out, and we were actually, unfortunately I don't have a completed photo, but it's in progress, creating a kitchenette there for them. They'll have a working stove, a dishwasher, and also that sink there so they can learn life skills at both Dutch Fork High and Spring Hill. We also discovered at the beginning of the summer that we had a grease trap at Dutch Fork High that had failed, and we needed to do something quickly. So we worked with DHEC and were able to replace that and get that done by the time students came back. Nothing exciting about a grease trap except, again, for somebody like me. And Todd. We also corrected some plumbing issues that we discovered in the process from original construction of the school, and that's what that picture is of the dry food storage area. Dr. Hefner showed you pictures of the crop stop. The reason I wanted to show this is this was a real team effort between food services, actually some of the students at the Kate Center who did some of the initial demolition for the crop stop, and then our folks with our electricians and our plumbers to make that crop stop a real success. These are just pictures putting in the water line from the front of the animal sciences barn over to the crop stop. Dr. Hefner talked about some of the flooring projects we did. We completed work at Dutch Fork Elementary School. You may recall last summer we replaced all the flooring in the classrooms. The summer prior to that we replaced all the flooring in the corridors, and this just kind of completes the entire school. And it really is impressive if you go in there and look at this. Yes, Ms. Hamilton?
Scott, I think at our last meeting there too, one time last year it was raining, and was that a leak from the roof?
We thought it was a roof leak. It was actually a leak through one of the HVAC units.
Wow.
And that's been correct.
So it's fixed, correct, thank you.
And then I wish, this is one of the times I kick myself. It used to be old Mexican-looking tile in those entry areas at Dutch Fork Elementary, and we were able to go back in with that walk-off carpet there that really brightens the area up and corrected some slipping hazards they were having there as well. Dutch Fork High School, we replaced the flooring in the media center. Top left is what it looked like before. Back in that corner area, now you've got some luxury vinyl tile in the area where the students kind of collaborate, and also replaced all the carpet in the rest of the media center. Over Christmas, we plan to replace the flooring in the front office areas of the school. Dutch Fork High School, this is kind of a unique situation. We were having some staff infection issues in the weight room. That existing floor you see under the mat on the top left is not impervious. It was trapping some nasty stuff in there, so we went in there and put in a solid vinyl floor with welded seams, and that should take care of any problems they were having with the program. Dr. Hefner mentioned some of the painting we did this summer. This painted areas in H.E. Corley. This is a picture of the gymnasium, obviously. Chapin Intermediate, we painted about half the school this summer. The room we're in right now is not one of the painted areas. At one time in the district, we kind of settled on this neutral brown as a standard color. Well, better heads prevailed, and we brought in some folks that know something about colors, and if you walk in the corridor areas of the school, you see it's much improved. Gymnasium at Irma Middle School, brighten that area up quite a bit. Irmo High School, I'm sorry I don't have it before on this, but we really dressed that area up in the cafeteria. And at Dutch Fork High School, this is the Shopping Media Center on the left. We got this same drab beige, and there you see more in line with the Dutch Fork colors on the right. And also, we've always got paving that's deteriorated throughout the district, so we went in at Irmo High School and corrected some of those areas. Paving is an interesting thing like roofs. If you don't get to those soon, when they start to fail, they become progressively worse, and you spend a lot more money the longer you wait, so we took care of those areas as well. And that's all I had pending further questions.
Ms. Hampton.
This may be more back to Dr. Hebner. You know, in one of your pit slides, you had the barn, and I was really interested in two things. The picture had the horses in it. Now, are those borrowed horses? We haven't bought any horses, have we?
So we do not own any horses.
Thank you. I was just making that clear since it was in your picture.
They're guests.
Thank you, and that's what I thought. The cows and the horses are yes.
They're not, we are not horse thieves.
Thank you, thank you. I didn't think we were thieves, I just wanted to make it clear we hadn't bought a bunch of horses on the barn. But my other question was, since the barn is complete, what was our final cost on the barn? Because we had issues with that when it was a procurement lesson one time. Some people want to know what the barn ended up costing.
Yes, ma'am. I don't have those figures with me, but we can certainly get you those.
Mr. Richardson, do you know?
Don't quote me on this, but it was probably $275,000 roughly.
Was it in our budget?
Yes, it was in-
That's the big question I'm asking.
Our revised budget, yeah, that price went up after we got Department of Education involved, but
Gotcha. Thank you. Well, I know they're excited about the barn.
Mr. Carlin, just a comment, that's a lot of great looking projects that happened this summer, and we know it happens every summer, but one thing that stands out, just like the painting, and I'm sure it's part of our contract, but the areas that were protected, like Lake Murray Elementary School, their entryway, working with LED lighting and other things, but we're protecting what we had, and I noticed that in another area too. I think maybe Dutch Fork High School, everything's covered up, we don't damage other things, so I think that's a very good point to make sometimes, that we're getting things done, but we're not hurting other things in the process. And I'm sure we're saying that to our contractors. You have to cover this and not ruin something we got to go back and do again later. So.
Yes, sir. We are very fortunate to have great consultants that we work with, but we're also blessed in the fact that we've got some really good contractors that have continued to bid our work. They know that we're going to treat them fairly. They know we have high expectations of them, but we really think it becomes a win-win. So we've got HVAC contractors, roofing contractors, painting contractors that continue to bid our work. They know what we expect. They know how we expect them to work within our schools, and we've been very fortunate to get the work done that we have during the summers.
And the good thing that I see, and I'm sure all our board does too, is it's a great learning environment. We're maintaining, we're keeping, we're improving. And I'm sure our students and our families really appreciate that. And the taxpayers appreciate protecting the investment too. So.
Well, and you mentioned improving. One of the things that we've made transformations on, and that's particularly with our HVAC systems and lighting. It's very easy to go in and put in a cheap first cost system. But when you put in a system that doesn't control humidity very well, is very noisy, takes up space in the classroom, that doesn't contribute to our mission. The systems we're putting in now do that.
Any other comments? Mr. Halterman?
Yeah. Mr. Carlin, I was at I guess it's called Chat Shoe.
Yes, sir.
We'll sit down with teachers, and I think it was at the Peak Center, maybe last school year. And I was sitting with some teachers from Harbison West, and they mentioned three things to me, and I said, well, first of all, maybe you need to go to your principal. But I believe since then they've had a change in principals. So maybe you didn't get the call, but they mentioned to me three things, and I didn't see anything about Harbison West on your slide. I think you had maybe 21 to do some of the stuff that they have here. One was, they said they have very poor air conditioning. They mentioned painting, and they also mentioned carpet in the classrooms need to be replaced. And I think one of them, or mentioned that one of the teachers had to go home from allergies as a result of the carpet. So I don't know if you got a call from them, but I thought I would just mention it to you. Maybe you could check with them.
Well, we've actually discussed all three of those with the principal, Mr. Davis.
Okay.
If you'll go back, let's see. Go back to the budgets. You'll note that at Harbison, we're scheduled, as of right now, and again, most of our HVAC projects are scheduled based on years and the age of the system. We've scheduled the HVAC replacement at Harbison for the fiscal year 2021 and 21-22, again, based on age. We had some concerns by the school and some of the parents and teachers because we had in particular, we had a fire alarm go off because we had a motor burn up in one of the units, which is fortunately doesn't happen very often, but it's not uncommon with any HVAC system we have in the district. I mean, we're going to occasionally have a belt that's going to burn up or a motor or something like that. But the fire alarm system did what it was supposed to, got everybody out of the building and corrected that problem. We also have an HVAC technician on our staff right now who is working on a lot of our older equipment that's 15 years and older. And we have focused in particular on Harbison West as well as Nurse Road Elementary. So we believe we've got that existing system working in design parameters as well as it can based on the design specifications on it. But we are planning on looking at in the 2021-22. The one challenge we got to kind of work through is we're also possibly looking at a renovation at that school. So we've got some things we need to decide how we're going to handle that. Also, painting. We've done some painting recently in the school in the last couple of years. The carpet is an issue, and carpet is an issue really throughout the district in our classrooms. What we would like to do eventually across the district is get rid of carpet entirely and go with a solid surface. We've done that now at Dutch Fork Elementary. We plan on moving on to some of the older schools, but again, depending on the disposition of what we do at Harbison and possibly Nursery Road may impact what we do and when we do it. But we are aware of those three items, and we're talking to Mr. Davis about it and trying to correct any immediate problems that we may be having.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Carter.
Yes, sir.
All right, and now we'll go to our Office of Communications. Katrina Goggins has some information for us this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Hefner. District 5 has long placed a high priority on transparency and openness as part of our relationship with the public. The purpose of tonight's brief FOI report is to provide you with an overview of some key changes to the law and the district's response in complying with it. So you may know that on May 19, 2017, Governor Henry McMaster signed into law several significant changes to the South Carolina Freedom of Information Act, and those were effective per the date of the signing, so we'll go over a few of those tonight. Before I go on, I do want to give proper attribution to Shirley Farley and John Riegel with the Halligan, Mahoney, Williams law firm. Much of the information we'll share here tonight comes from a presentation they provided at the South Carolina School Boards Association Law Conference earlier this year. And they gave us permission to use some of that content. So what are the key changes? As mentioned, there are several, but we'll highlight a few that have received extra attention by school districts and public bodies throughout South Carolina. First, the more popular and frequently reported change has been the change to the response time. The amendments also provide guidelines on fees and electronic transmission of any public record, or prohibition of directory information for commercial use, and legal remedies for public bodies, and we'll elaborate on each of these a little bit more in further slides. So these changes have created some challenges for public bodies like the district. First, we have limited resources for researching, retrieving, and reviewing or redacting documents. Some districts have added staff, we've seen through research, to try to oversee FOI. In District 5, there's no dedicated staff member, and this responsibility is shared with a few staff members. Another challenge, while most documents are electronic today, many public bodies have in the past relied on public paper-based documentation, which makes it more difficult for us to track down these documents. We've also seen a sharp increase in FOI requests, and I'll show you a chart in just a minute. And then the last bullet is perhaps the most difficult. It's a public perception that public bodies are not forthcoming with documents or lack transparency. I'm happy to report in District 5 that despite all of these challenges, we have responded well, and we are in compliance with the law. So here's the slide on the timeline, and this is just review. I think most people are aware that public bodies now have 10 business days to make an initial determination, 30 days from that initial response to provide the documents. If the documents are older than 2 years, 24 months, we have a little bit more time to respond. This slide shows our FOI requests over the past few years. You can see that we had a total of 27 requests in 2013-14, 17 requests in 2014-15, and then 15-16, and then this exponential increase from 17 requests to 94 requests last school year. As of 5 p.m. today, when I checked, we had already received 22 requests this school year, so we don't think this upward trend will change for us anytime soon. So again, the challenge is a tighter window to the response, other challenges, but we are compliant. The amendment also gave guidelines on fees, and fees are not to exceed the actual costs of research, retrieval, redaction of records, and public bodies must develop a fee schedule and post them. And slide 8 is our fee schedule, a schedule that mirrors very closely those by other school districts. It covers photocopies, how we calculate employee time, computer and technology costs and deposits. And this can be found on our website here, slide 9, under the communications tab. So it has been posted online. Slide 10 further illustrates our efforts towards being transparent as a district. District 5 is one of the only school districts in South Carolina posting FOI responses. We began posting these at the start of the school year, though we're not required to. And that too can be found under the Communications Department's FOI tab. So quickly, there are a few other changes we wanted to briefly mention. The first, a person has a right to receive an electronic transmission to any public record. However, public bodies are not required to create an electronic version. But I'll note that we always try to work with members of the public making these requests to provide them with the information they seek. The next change states that the district's directory information under FERPA cannot be provided to requesters for commercial use. And of course, we had board policy about this, so we were ahead of the law with this regard. And then finally, the amendment provided public bodies with legal remedies against unduly burdensome, overbroad, vague, repetitive, and otherwise improper FOI requests. I also note that there are a few other flexibilities in providing documents with regard to negotiating a timeline for producing documents. We get to that 30-day if needed, and adjusting fees if we need to, and find that the cost is more than we initially anticipated. So again, the amendments did bring about significant changes and obstacles or challenges, but the district is committed, has been, and will remain committed to following the law and being as accountable to our public as we can. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Goggins. You may have some questions here.
I have
Ms. Hutchinson.
Yes, I wanted to ask if we are enforcing the fees consistently, regardless of how small or how large. I think maybe in the past that the district had tried to be really generous and kind, but I still think that there is, we have a standard and we have a rule that allows us to charge for the resources, and I think even if it's just one small question, we need to do that, just so we are consistent and we don't show preference or anything else to anybody.
Absolutely, and it has been a practice in the past to be generous with certain FOI requests, but we are consistent. I think that amendment gave us an opportunity to do that since we established a fee schedule, and we are making sure that we're consistent from now on.
Okay, and then my second one, I'm very delighted to see the, I guess it's, can you pull up that last slide yet? The legal remedies. I think that truly we do get requests from people who have questions, and it's right for us to provide that information. But I do think that a lot of times when you see the spike, especially the spike that we've seen this past year, it borders on harassment. And I believe that the public would be very upset if they knew how much in District 5 resources we were spending to handle these, what I would call harassment FOIs. And I think that you could look at the individuals who are submitting these and count the number of FOIs. I hope that we will take advantage of this legal remedy. It would not have been put in the law had there not been concern and comment to the General Assembly that public agencies were being harassed for burdensome, overly broad, vague, repetitive, and otherwise improper FOI requests. And I feel very strongly for that because I've seen it and I know how much time the district spends on this, and there's just no sense in a public body being harassed by individuals.
You bring up a great point. You mentioned questions, and we've had to, the purpose of this report, educate the public a little bit that FOI is a request for existing documents. It's not the mechanism for asking questions of the district, and I think there's a little bit of confusion about that. So we, when we can, try to educate the public about what FOI requires a public body to do.
Thank you.
Ms. Hammond.
My questions go along with that. I'd like to ask maybe you as our expert PR person and Dr. Hefner, why do you think that there has been this huge spike? Because if you look, we've never had it's been more even, and then all of a sudden, if you think there's any particular reason for the spike.
I think there are several reasons. Definitely more attention to this because the media has reported on the FOI changes, so perhaps that's created a little bit more attention to it. But certainly you can name every factor and every one of them would be true. More attention, more scrutiny of the public bodies as well. So,
And I would just add to your first point, Ms. Goggins, which I think is on point so very much. But this is happening all across our country, not just here in our state, but it's a part of, I guess, a campaign out there on the part of some people to really inundate public bodies with FOIA requests.
And my second part, it goes to the same thing, the legal remedies. How do you foresee what entity would decide when it's burdensome? I mean, we could, that could be an opinion to us or to the people, how many it is or what it is. But is there any legal advice? And I attended this, and so did Dr. Hefner, and so did Mr. Gant, and you were there. And so we heard this presentation at the School Boards Association. And I really wasn't sure about that answer, unless it would be a court that would decide. I mean, because that would be important for all boards. Who has the last say that it's burdensome? Is it?
I think it would be a court would ultimately make that decision. You know, there's a case in a nearby district right now where the district has brought action against a person who has inundated them with FOIA requests. So we're all watching that to see what the response to that is.
So it really wouldn't be us as a board or an individual board to be anyone that would decide that. It would have to be an outside
I
entity.
think that's correct. All we could do is bring it to you, and you all could decide if you thought that there was a case there for bringing a legal case. But I'm not aware of any specific standard. I think it'll be very difficult to define because, you know, it's not the sheer number of FOIAs, it's the depth of research. Some of them are very simple things to take care of. Some of them are much more cumbersome.
But I think it, you know, I certainly don't want to see our staff inundated with the same thing over and over or whatever, but I also know that, you know, it's important for us to try and even across maybe the country, we can only handle our little spot, but there are people that feel like if they want to know something and they don't know it, I don't think we should just act like anybody that asks for an FOI, you know, is a burden. And so it's important to me of how we define what's burdensome.
Mr. Hawthorne, then Ms. Hicks.
I think if you go a little bit further in the explanation of legal remedies, burdensome to me would be particularly repetitive. If you bring me the same thing over and over again, asking the same question, that's burdensome to me. I mean, if I've given you the answer, why do you keep coming back for the same answer if I've given it to you? So that, to me, that becomes burdensome. And also my question was, you said it went from 17 to 94 and 2016 to 2017. You also stated that you have no additional staff to do the work. This requires time. And I don't want to ask how much time. Obviously, it's a lot of time, and that's okay about that. But obviously, it's taking a lot of your time away from other things that you need to do.
Other
Am I
things
correct?
like highlighting the great things that our students do, so,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you.
Ms. Hutchinson.
I just wanted to answer Ms. Hammond's question. I think it's pretty obvious when you look at the type of questions asked, as Dr. Hefner said, it's not always just the number, but it is, you know, what is being asked. But I think also that we could all take a look at the people who have been repetitive in the request for FOIA information that I would call, as I keep looking for those words, as repetitive and as burdensome and as really, and I add the word harassment, and I mean that, it is harassment. And I'm not saying that the public as a whole doesn't have the right, and we have the responsibility for providing information that we have, but sending a question asking for, what is the percentage of students in this school who have succeeded, or whatever the question is, and we can send them a simple report card. But we know, and it's just, when you see it, when it's harassment. And I'm just really tired of this district being harassed by certain individuals and taking up important staff time when they can be they have far more responsibilities than answering harassing FOIA attempts. So I think the public has a right, but individuals do not have a right to harass us.
Any other comments? I want to piggyback just a minute on what Mr. Hawthorne mentioned. in fact, that obviously with that spike, this year's startup continuing that same spike, you have a wonderful staff that you get to work with, but you all are working really hard to meet the needs and meet the requirements, and our whole district works very hard. And the reality is, at some point, I'm not suggesting you do this, but at some point you're probably going to say, we can't meet our mission of telling the good stories and getting our great news releases out in addition to these FOIA requests. The repetition, the over and over is tying up X number of people. So at the end, there's a cost for doing that. It might mean more staff. So that's more of a burden to the taxpayers of this district. So I agree with Ms. Hutchison. I agree with all of our concerns. It would be really nice for some of the folks that are repetitive in their requests and their continuous requests to back away from that and really think about what is best for students in this district. But I know it's a reality. If you've got to dedicate, and I believe you now dedicate yourself partially and a staffer to trying to keep up with these requests and probably others at times. So we're seeing this, we know it, we hear it, and it's a reality we all may have to face in a budget sometimes. So thank you for dealing with it. I'm sure it's frustrating at times. Mr. White.
I wanted to add one thing. I think, Lynn, it's a question for you, but
Got a green light?
I did. Okay, there it is. But do we sort of stay on the edge in terms of recovering costs? Because, it seems to me that, first of all, this is putting aside the abuse, this is a very fundamental right that governmental bodies have to disclose certain information that's not otherwise protected. But, we all know from the time we've been on this board, you get a personality and they get into a tiff about something and they start just firing these things out over and over and over. And at some point, it's no longer information; it's just an exercise in trying to be disruptive. But I know we got to publish a fee schedule, and I didn't pay that much attention when it came by here. But it seems like, if you got to go out and hire somebody additional to meet deadlines, you got to have a fee schedule for that. If you're going to put a massive thing in here, we got to go get temporary workers. Then you scale up fees to cover the actual costs, and that can be one way of deterring some of the abuse. Because we can file lawsuits, but that's going to be time consuming. It's going to be costly, and in the end, you probably flip a coin on how a judge would rule on that, unless you got something really clear and abusive. But I think we ought to try to push this fee schedule to its complete limits and not, try to recover every cost. And I'm assuming that's direct and indirect costs. But if you got timelines, are there not resources you'd have to go staff or pay people overtime or whatever? And that seems like that ought to be the cost that gets pushed through to these people who keep trying to put these massive requests on us.
By no means the expert in FOI law, but I think there are certain limitations on what we can and can't charge as far as staff time goes. I know we haven't done a good job in the past recouping our costs, but I think, and I don't know how we're doing this year since this is just implemented in beginning of the fiscal year, but I'm hoping we'll do a much better job now of recouping some of our costs than we have in the past years.
The law says that the fee cannot exceed the prorated annual salary of the lowest paid employee. So it's just an estimate. We're not recouping all the costs of this, but there are some limitations on what we can charge.
Is there not a way to add, I guess you got to have people familiar with where all of these records are kept, so it's not like you can add additional resources to deal with it.
A lot of the information we get asked for is financial, so we can't just bring someone in or temporary individual come in and pull records for us. So we have to have somebody knowledgeable with what we're looking for to be able to comply with some of the requests that we get.
And then one of the challenges, once we have the information, is reviewing it and deciding what should be redacted. So you have a balance between privacy and what we should provide. All of that information has to be reviewed before it goes out.
Mr. Cates.
I think we all, hopefully we all agree that the public does have a fundamental right to the information, and we want to make that information readily available. And I appreciate what you've done in the office to be kind of, I don't mean this in an adversarial tone, but preemptive, I guess is the way to say it, by putting a lot of the documents online so that those requests can be redirected. It's already online. So I think that's a great direction that you're going. I appreciate that. I think as much as we can do in public and are able to provide that kind of information, hopefully will make that process a little bit easier. So thank you for your hard work and for that. I think anything we can put online is definitely to our advantage. So thank you.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Goggins, and thank you, Mr. Carlin and Dan Neal for your reports. And that concludes the superintendent's report. Thank you, Dr. Hefner. That was a very complete and timely superintendent's report. We appreciate it. I feel up to date. At this time, it brings us to our public participation.